Okay, let's start. So we begin just with a little quiet sitting in a relaxed way. Get your spine to carry your weight, and without any particular agenda, remain open to whatever arises. Okay. So the basis of the practice, as we looked before, is to not enter into involvement. Because if you get involved, you're likely to get enmeshed. You're likely to get pulled in like a bird being caught in a net. Because you may think that you are the one doing the thinking, but the thought will catch the thought of you. And you will have nowhere to hide. You just get turned around and around. So if we return to the qualities of ignoring or unawareness that we looked at in the morning, the separation from the source, the beginning of samsara, is like a magical illusion. It's like something happening in a dream. It doesn't actually happen, but it is as if it happens if you believe in it. That is to say, it is a mental event rather than an ontological event or an existential event. Like seeing a mirage on a hot summer's road, you see something, but there is no water there. You see it, but it's not there. You are deluded. Or the familiar example of mistaking a rope for a snake. In the evening, when the light's not clear, and you may be a bit anxious going along on the little path in a hot country, you see a snake. It's not a snake, but you see it as a snake because you believe it. And that highlights the nature of our perception. According to the general Buddhist understanding, through our five senses, information is coming from the object, whether it's sound or taste or whatever. It's coming in through the sense organs, and it's formulated by a consciousness belonging to that object. This first level of information is then fed into mental consciousness, Yidki Namparsepa, which is said to reside with all the consciousnesses in the heart and on an 8-petaled lotus. And mental consciousness is then close to the consciousness of the 5 poisons, of mental dullness, desire, aversion, jealousy, and pride, and from that, all the other kind of emotional pulses of reactivity, as well as all the potential of all the accumulations of possibilities of dualistic experience, which is called the consciousness of the ground of all. This ground of all is not the ground of all in terms of bright awareness, but it's slightly dull because of reification, because of taking what arises as being something. So when we look through our eyes and we see something, and we think, oh, I perceive a tree, I perceive a car, the car is white in color. It appears to us that I see what is there. It's just there. Look, I can look, I look out my window just now, I see there's a white car parked in the road. But from the Buddhist point of view, white car is a construct in my consciousness. It is an interpretation. So my ordinary in the world perception is deluded. I think I'm seeing an object which is self-existing, but actually I am co-creating the car with the potential of what is there, color, shape, so on, and all that I know about cars and the fact that they get parked on the road and so on. So in the moment that I perceive the car, I conceive the car. It is a conception as well as a perception. And the conception also indicates a coming into birth. I'm birthing the motor car with how I think about it. So this is a movement of mental activity. And this is what ignorance is, because as soon as the source is not seen, this is where it comes from, this is where it comes from. Now there's just stuff. There's, oh, all of this. What is it? So now I have to make sense of it. And I do that according to my culture, my education, what I think is important, what I ignore, and so on. Each of us has our own particular frames of reference. For some people, cars are not important. For some, they're very important. Some people know a lot about it. Some people know a little about it. That's the content of their mind. It's not what's parked on the street. So mental activity is the activity of the ground mistaken or twisted or spun a little bit so that it seems to be a thinker thinking about someone. That the one who sees the car is me, and what I see is the car. But as we looked this morning, I am also something I experience. I experience myself experiencing the car. But because I take myself for granted, I don't look at that. I just think, I see a car. I'm not fucking stupid. I see a car. So in that way, I hide from myself my own participation in the arising of the experience. When subject and object move together, that's a play of co-emergence. It's a quality. But when I think I am looking at a white car, then there is subject in the flat, in the car is on the road. Subject and object are completely different. So although subject and object are movements of the mind, the more solidification, the more density my sense of self takes on, the more I seem to be stabilized as the inhabitant of this body, the owner of this body. Everything which is not me is just other, and I can select from it the aspects which seem to affirm me. So this is how ignoring works. It is a process of ceaseless interpretation of the unborn potential of the ground as it shows itself. You look in the mirror, you see a reflection, but you don't. You see your face. It's only you look in the mirror, you see your face. I'm in the mirror. No, you're not in the mirror. But I am in the mirror. Look, that's me. So in that way, the nature of the reflection is hidden, because when you look in the mirror, you see yourself. No, you don't. And you don't even see, oh, this is what a reflection is. So the relation between the reflection and the mirror is not apparent to you, because you're simply using the mirror as a means of confirming, oh, that's me, that's how I look. So it's so close because the reflection is in the mirror, and yet it's so far because I'm looking at me. So simultaneously, you have the possibility of open awareness or unawareness. So in the tradition, once you have the initial grasping at something, you have this co-emergent ignorance, which is the possibility of seeing, oh, there's nothing there. It's the movement of the mind, or to see things. And once you start seeing things, there is a subject that sees the things, And from that, you get all the elaborations, excuse me, that you get in different cultures, different periods of history, and so on, leading to the formation of myself in a particular environment, leading to my behaviors, good or bad, selfish or generous, whatever. So it's so important to see that the first stage of ignorance is one of separation. So when you look at the mirage in the summertime, you've got a shimmering movement of the air. And the way the light comes into it, this shimmering creates for us the illusion of water. We see something which is not there, but we see it. So this is really what ignorance is. It is to be convinced of the existence of something which doesn't exist. There is something there. There is light. There is movement. This is the potential. But when the potential is grasped at as being something, and then second, that something being incorporated into our familiar frames of reference. Oh, it's water on the road. Yeah, I can imagine there's water on the road. Sometimes there is. Then, oh yes, that's what it is, but it's not. But as long as you feel that's what it is and you act on that basis, then you go towards it. And when people are out in the desert, these kind of mirages can take them off the path they should be following, and they can get into big trouble. So that's why the texts often say samsara is like a dream. It doesn't mean that it's nothing at all, but it is an illusion which, when you believe it to be true, deludes you. It is your own belief, your own longing for something that makes you stupid. And the reason we want something to be out there is because we want someone to be in here, because we are convinced that we exist. We are a showing, but we're not something which exists. We don't exist apart from it. We are the flow of experience. So this is enormously important, because if when I'm sitting and just some thoughts come in my mind, if I take that mental activity as an aspect of myself, then it is as if I am the thinker. And then our familiar story continues. But rather, what we're wanting to in the meditation, self is an aspect of mental activity. Maybe I think myself into existence, into a pseudo-existence, an ersatz existence, something which appears to be the case, make-believe, pretend, produced by mental activity. And what is mental activity? Energy of the ground, arising and passing, arising and passing. And as I said, the ground, according to the tradition, is completely neutral. It doesn't care. It's just a potential. Awareness is, if you are aware, then you see, oh, it's like that. And then you don't get lost. But if you don't see that, that that we have to being for us, although it doesn't actually exist. So that's something really quite important for us to look at. So as subject and object get involved together and we become entangled, we take our life seriously, we believe in the importance of maintaining our structures, life becomes quite thick. Of course, if you have family, you have to feed your kids and you have to get them to school and so on. It's not that you should walk away and leave the world behind. It's more to see, oh, the world is flowing moment by moment. If you've got kids, they're always moving, they're always doing something. They're flowing around, this, that, thoughts, happy, sad, falling over, crying, getting up, laughing, moving. The solidification of your belief, this is my child, they should be like that, I want them to do this, and so on. You solidify the situation. If you can flow with the flow, life gets much easier. In family therapy, you see again and again that the families that function well, they are very fluid. And the families that don't function so well are either very sticky and enmeshed, or very distant, or very too hot, too cold, but there's very little flow. So the flow of experience is how it is. We don't need to invent it. We don't make it. We find ourselves moment by moment in this flow. But if you miss the pulse, if you miss the beat, then you become a bit staccato. You become out of rhythm with things, and this creates friction and either aversion or desire, and the usual kind of chaos we're familiar with. So in order to separate, so separation was the cause of the problem in the first place, because we separated the arising appearance from its own ground, and the interpretation of that arising experience from its own ground. But now, because subject and object seem to be separate, we need to separate from them in order to have more space to see clearly, which is why we have the general state practice. First of all, we do shine, or staying peacefully, staying calmly, so that diminish the power of habitual involvement, of reactivity, the felt sense of the necessity of doing something. So how do we do that? Well, on the outer level, we do it simply by focusing our attention on the nostrils. Most of you are probably very familiar with this. And it may seem like a beginner's practice, but in the tradition in Dzogchen, we keep doing this from time to time, because it's a way of in a sense, seeing whether the brakes are working on the car. Once you get into life and the car's moving, if you haven't checked the brakes, you can have a problem. So when we do shine, we sit in a calm way, we bring our attention to the sensation of the breath at the nostrils, and that's what we focus on. And this acts as a brake for our movement to the left, movement to the right, following thoughts that have gone in the past, waiting expectantly for future thoughts. We just focus. So it's a restrictive focusing device that allows us to be more aware of our habits of distraction. Because if you're always distracted, and distraction seems like a kind of friendly social thing, because you can enter into conversations and be part of what's going on, distraction seems quite fine. But when you try to slow down, then you see, oh, actually, this is a habit. I'm not the friendly social person. I'm pulled into these social situations because I can't sit still. I can't just listen. I have to participate. So in order to give ourselves more perspective, we just practice sitting a little bit. So we do some basic shine now, just for a short time, but to settle into that space. So sitting with the spine. For this kind of practice, the gaze is going down the line of the nose. We're not looking out. We're not concerned with the environment. We're wanting to make our world very, very small. The only thing that matters is the sensation at the nostrils. And if we wander off, going here and there, as soon as we notice that, we gently bring ourselves back. Okay. Okay. So that's a very good practice to do, A, because it calms you down and makes it easier to have more sense of spaciousness. But it also helps us to see when we seem to go under the power of arising memory or sensation in the body. And it is as if these arising phenomena have the power to us, to pull us in. This is where we cheat ourselves. These ideas do not have that power. For example, if you like alcohol, then you think that alcohol is very good. You want to have some alcohol every day, but you notice that not everybody does this. How very strange. Alcohol is available. Why would you not drink it? Some people say, I don't like it. I don't want it. What's wrong with these people? Alcohol is good. So if you're a drinker, you see the quality as being intrinsic to the alcohol. But if the quality was intrinsic to the alcohol, everybody would be caught by the power of the alcohol and we would all be drinking. The same with cigarettes, the same with pornography, the same with many of the things that take people over, where they feel, I have to, it's necessary, it's important. Projecting meaning and value into the object is the way that you allow yourself to be a slave. The mind is free from the very beginning. No object in the world has power to control you. People who get cancer respond to it very differently. People who have amputations respond very differently. People who are being tortured respond very differently. There is no fixed correlation between a particular kind of object or situation and the subjective response. So when you see this, when you really see directly, oh, I give myself to the thought, to the memory, I am sacrificing my freedom in order to be involved. That involvement is more important than freedom. Then you start to see the choice point or the crossroads between the openness of awareness, which is not involved, and the ego, which is always involved. When you get distracted in imagination, in meditation, this is because you have not released yourself from the nexus of your egoic identification, your sense of being your familiar self. And so on that basis, the link between habitual object forms and habitual subjective responses, they lock together very easily. But this is from your side. The object's not doing it to you, or making that object out of a sense of lack. The ego is marked by a sense of lack. It needs more and it wants more. And that lack can be met, if possible, by positive situations, but it can also, as we know, be met by negative actions. People who have been abused will often, as adults, put themselves back into abusive relationships because they've become used to a pattern in which they are put down, denigrated, physically attacked, sexually attacked, and so on. It's habitual to them. And habitual means there, it confirms my sense that I'm worthless, I'm unlovable, I'm stupid, I'm rubbish. So once you have an identification like that, it provides a kind of lock-on. So in meditation, this is a place where we can choose freedom. We can allow these strands of habitual involvement to untie and relax. That's why the simplicity of focusing on the breath is so helpful. Just breathing in and out. I'm not having to do anything, just breathing in and out. And then these invitations come from arising phenomena, and I follow them. What am I looking for? I was peaceful just for some excitement or some validation of my own. How we start to see, cheat myself. There's no one else to blame. There's no point in blaming the object, blaming other people, what they do, how they let me down, how they upset me. There's no need to do any of that. Just watch your own mind. This arises, let it be. That arises, let it be. So we can usually from that we go on to do Vipassana practice, which links, and it's a very important investigation to do for the practice of Dzogchen, because it's a way of really becoming clear that impermanence is all there is. So in the practice of Vipassana, and this is general Buddhist Vipassana, after sitting for some time, we take, excuse me, the focused attention we've had at the nostrils, we take it up to the top of the head and then scan down through the body to the soles of our feet and back up again. Down and up and down, slowly, just being aware with what is there. That is to say, we go down as an awareness, not an investigative consciousness, but a simple attention, which is open like awareness. It's still an attention, but it's not looking for anything in particular, and it displays whatever it encounters. So there's an itch or a burn or a pain or a happy feeling, whatever it is, and you pass through. And you just note as you go up and down the changing movement of these experiences. So we try that for a little bit. Just very gently move in your own time. It's a way of getting close to the lived actuality of embodiment. This is what embodiment is, how it presents itself. It's not a medical body or a theoretical body or an anatomical body. It's the body of life as it shows itself moment by moment. Scanning down, scanning up. Okay. So this is a very simple practice. It's easy to do. You just keep scanning up, scanning down, not stopping, not thinking about what's occurring, just allowing it to register. Don't tell yourself what is occurring. Something hot arises. If you say it's a pain, you have told the event what it is. But if you just stay with it, the event has the chance to show itself to you. And so the phenomena have space to be as they are without being cooked through your assumptions, your beliefs, your ideas. And this is very heart of Dzogchen practice, because if you don't understand this, then you keep the internal commentary running and you become the mistress of everything that's occurring, and you never find freedom. We're moving from engaged, enmeshed participant to an observer, neutral, and then we're going to become more spacious and receive whatever is arising without letting it mark us. And then on the basis of that, you can be participating in the world, but always with the freshness of the emergence from the ground. So when we do this practice, if you keep doing it, you start to experience, oh, this body is a process. This body is a revelation, an unfolding, a showing. So this body is like a potential. So it's like a flow of water. And you can pour it into a round jug or a square jug, and the water will take that shape for a while. So I am fluid, I am flow. So you can see if you then go to do a tantric practice where, say, your name is Anne, Anne is now sitting and visualizing or imagining that she is Tara. But Anne has started by being Anne. How can Anne become Tara? If Anne is very strongly enmeshed in the idea, I am Anne, then you have to de-Anne Anne. You have to take the Anne out of Anne in order that she becomes Tara. And that's quite difficult if you spend all your time just being Anne and being Anne and being Anne. So when you do this Vipassana, oh, I'm flowing in this particular way. This is a flow like the water. So I flow into Anne and I flow into Tara, then I flow into Padmasambhava. So you might have a thought, but my name is Anne, I'm a woman. Yes, I could be Tara, but Padmasambhava, this is a man. I don't know that as a woman I could become a man. And you see, oh, I'm stuck in my assumptions. The flow of my experience is not male or female, it's the potential. And then you can be the 21 taras, the 8 forms of Padmasambhava, because you can move in any direction with whatever is occurring. Water flows. Egoic stability and stuckness and fixity can't flow. It has to defend itself. It's greedy and defensive. This is not much fun. So the Vipassana is very simple practice, but it goes very deep and it allows us to go more easily into the practices. So you're using these two practices, the calm sitting and the Vipassana means to see clearly, to have a direct insight. We're using these two to free ourselves from our history of reification, the solidification of ourself and the other. So we want to sit uninvolved but present. Yes, what do we have to do? Now this has frozen.
I think you can continue now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Cut off, come back. Picture, come back. Can you see me? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's recording.
And it's recording. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you solidify yourself, you put yourself apart from the flow. So in these practices, like with the scanning, like a melting block of ice, you go from solidity into flow. And we stay with flow because Dzogchen is entirely about the flow of light, of sound, of the movement of experience. So we're not involved, but not in a defensive way, but simply as the mirror is present with the reflection, but not involved in it. Involvement means kind of mutual in the basic quality of the ground of awareness itself is called kadak, primordial purity. It's never been stained or marked or touched by anything which has occurred. It's vajra, it's indestructible. Nothing can distort it or break it or harm it. No reflection alters the mirror itself. The mirror itself is very, very close to the reflection, but it's not transformed by it. So that indicates the quality that we want to open to in the awareness. We're not trying to make it happen. We're not inventing something or developing a new form of ourselves. Rather, this is the quality of the source itself, which is obscured by our own constructive energy and the ways that we operate. So we want to relax and open. And the main way that we do this in Dzogchen is through Guru Yoga. Guru Yoga is very, very ancient practice. Over the years, over the centuries, many additional practices have been added to Dzogchen. These are kind of secondary practices which are useful for working with energy, that is to say, with working with the patterning of what arises, working with movement. But Guru Yoga allows you to open to the ground itself, and through finding yourself in the presence of the ground, which is your own ground, then movement ceases to be a problem at all. So Guru Yoga is very simple and very, very profound. The reason it's simple is because it takes you to what is intrinsic, what is already there. You're not having to make it happen. It is. All you're doing is allowing yourself to unfold from the burden. Say you had been walking in the hills and you have a big rucksack and a jacket, and you walk and then you sit down, you ease the sack off your shoulders, take off your jacket. Oh, your body suddenly feels lighter, your spine gets longer. Now you're here, and before you were looking at the ground that you were walking on. So this is the function of the Guru Yoga, to lay down the burden of the conceptual notion of self you have been carrying for so long. It's false. It's a fabrication. Actually, it's not very heavy. Actually, it has no substance to it at all. But your own belief in it creates this idea so that it is as if this is what was. When we do the Guru Yoga, we sit in this usual position with everything resting through the spine. Our gaze is open into the space in front of us, and we imagine a white letter R. It could be a Tibetan letter R or a Western capital A. The main point is that R symbolizes unimpeded flow. Unimpeded flow and potential. So if you take your breath, breathing in and out, quietly, silently, and you start to allow some sound. Mama, Papa. So this empty silence starts to go into its first basic form of Ah, and on the basis of Ah, you get the development of all words. So the entire conceptual field, the entire play of the creation of particular patternings is the kind of surface shimmer of the sound of Ah. Ah indicates emptiness, not as something dead, but something empty and full at the same time. Just as the sound Ah is nothing at all, but it's the basis for Mama, Papa, everything. Empty and full, empty and full. This non-duality is what Ah represents. This is Dzogpa Chempo, the great completion. It's complete in its emptiness. There is nothing rising like a miracle moment by moment. So we imagine maybe an arm length and a half in front of us, about the size of your fist to your thumb, like this, white letter R, and around it we have these colors spreading out, this white, red, blue, yellow, and green, and they represent the 5 elements, the 5 wisdoms, the 5 poisons, all the potential of samsara and nirvana, which is inseparable from the open, empty ground. Arising and passing, arising and passing. Energy flows out into the space of Ah. So it's not that the energy is around Ah and going out somewhere else. Ah is the infinity of space within which these 5 colors are moving, forming all the potential patterns. and relaxed and open. With this as our focus of attention, we make the sound of ah 3 times, relaxing into the sound, releasing into the sound, allowing all our constrictions and tensions and constructs just to dissolve into the sound, because all of them are elaborations of the basic energy of emptiness. Opening out. When we come to the end of the sound of the third ah, the ah in front of us dissolves, and we're just sitting. The open sky in front of us, this open sky within us, sky and sky, no barrier, no limit, no border. And within that, experience arises. Sometimes it looks outside, sometimes it looks inside. However it appears, don't interfere, don't make a commentary, just allow it to be. So you're very relaxed, nothing to be done. Stay as you are, just peaceful. So we do that practice and then we'll have a break. Okay. So many kinds of experiences arise when we are sitting. Let them come and go. Self-arising, self-vanishing, or self-liberating. There's nothing for us to do with them. But as soon as you become caught up with one thought, the next thought seems to double up on top of it and double up in the next more and more and more. Like a traffic jam on a motorway, one car breaks down and now there's 5,000 cars unable to move. So you get a compacting or a densification. Each of these cars, if it's functioning well, is just moving along the road. There's no problem. Thoughts arise and they pass through. But it is as if one thought sits on another and another. The bottom one has already vanished, but it's as if they generate an increasing opacity. You can't see through them. They become like a kind of veil. Just as when you have clear light and on the summer's day, you hold up a crystal, the light goes into it and the colors come out. You see this, oh, these colors are the potential of the clear light, just as we had with the white are like the clear light and the colors radiating out. But when these colors are, say, on the wall of a room, or you have some bookshelves or bedspreads or whatever you have in the room, different colors. One is red, one is green, and so on. And these colors are there because of this ability or non-ability to absorb color. So the color that you see is the color that's not absorbed by that material. It kind of seems to linger on the surface. So we see the blueness there, and we don't see that this blueness has a relationship to the capacity of the surface of that material to absorb the full spectrum of the clear light or not. It is a selection in that then gives a density to the color. If it was clear light, it's just transparent, just move through clear light. But if it's solid blue or solid red, we say solid, it seems to be something there. So this is what you can see in your own mind. The light of your mind, which is open and fresh, this free flow, suddenly seems to condense, thicken, coagulate like blood, and it becomes sticky. And then you build up something, and then you build up something. Nothing was built, uncompounded, but it looks as if something was built. So nobody can do this for you. Each of us has to sit and look and get to know our own mind. Nothing is hidden. This is not esoteric. It's not a great secret, but it helps if somebody sets out, oh, this is how it is, because that gives us the courage to keep looking. But if you do keep looking, you will find, because this is how it is. It's not that some people have more of it and some people have less. Some people have more tendency to distraction. Some people fall asleep very easily. These can be managed a little bit by extra secondary practices. But the main thing is, however your mind is, don't block it, don't edit it, stay fresh with it. Okay, we're going to take a break now for 30 minutes until 10 to. Okay, see you then.